my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach.
Not the best intro music, but we are back. We're a day late. Kid's sick. Was in the hospital 36 hours. We're good. He's feeling good. He cashed out right away. But kudos to my lovely co-host KB on a national championship for his team. What a year to start this whole thing, KB. So welcome to Two Fans, One Paul. You have myself, David Quist, and my lovely co-host KB. You know, we're a day late. Maybe it was better to let it marinate for a day and everything, and think about everything. But how we doing, KB? I know you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, man, I'm so pumped. I took yesterday off. I took a half day Monday night to make sure I could make it because the game started pretty early out here in the mountain time zone. And then took yesterday off kind of just celebrate the win, kind of let it soak all in. It still doesn't feel real. It probably won't feel real until I watch the first game of the season next year. And I'm like, holy shit, that all happened. I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about in the game. There's missed opportunities, I think, on both sides to put the game away. I think Washington, Penix missed a few that, you know, maybe we're like, oh, I thought he'd be dialed in, and that's what good defenses do. They get people off the rhythm. I think Michigan's play calling was subpar. I think they went a little too conservative at times, but I think the running game, and especially Donovan Edwards, who's a guy who struggled all year, who still only got six carries in this game, which is literally malpractice from the offensive staff, which we can get into a little bit as well. Yep. But just an absolutely electric feeling. I was nervous the entire game. I had people text me congratulations when they're up 17-3, and I was like, "You've never watched Michigan football before."
It did just feel like they had a chance to run away with it. It definitely
did. They did. Definitely right before the half. If they would have got that fourth down, maybe converted to touchdown and leave like 50 seconds left for Washington, and they're up 24-3. Definitely could have railroaded it. But, you know, I'm sitting back here and I'm on Twitter scrolling this day, and the NCAA commissioner comes out and says, we basically are going to honor this championship, and it was as clean and legit as you can make it. It just came out in a report. So all you Sparty fans and OSU fans that are begging, vacate.
I saw something yesterday. Brett McMurphy,
cry, dude.
I don't know why he tweeted, but Brett McMurphy tweeted, like, a game cannot be vacated unless it's played. I was like, why even tweet that? I know he's a big, he drops a lot of bombs and stuff on, you know, Twitter and the internet. So curious why he would say that. Maybe, you know, it is what it is. I think obviously the players earned it. We can talk about it more, but I just want to jump into the stat line, KB, and then we can have our conversation. It'll be probably a long talk, 20 minutes or so, so we'll be fine. We do have some news. State's got a lot of portal stuff, and obviously there's some breaking news today and the last few days. We'll talk about that at the end. But we're going to talk about the game for sure first, since KB is a Michigan guy, which is crazy. I think the first year we do this, that's what happens. But final score, 34-13. Michigan is the national champion last year of the 14 playoff. Thank God that's leaving. Let's go through some stats here, KB, and we'll talk. JJ, okay game, 10 for 18, 140, no touchdowns, no picks. Rushing for Michigan, Blake Corum, 21 carries, 134, 2 touchdowns, long of 59. Donovan Edwards, kind of the story for me, came out of nowhere, 6 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. JJ had one big run towards the end. Nothing crazy when it comes to receiving for Michigan. And the defense for Michigan, you know, I'm going to say a couple names, but their defense was amazing. That was why they won. They said Mikey Sanders still a lot. I'm going to say Mike. I never heard him get called Mikey it, but Sanders still had a great game. 6 solos and a pick. I will say something that I noticed a lot of plays, KB, was the tackling for Michigan's secondary was very good. So I'll just say Sanders still because he had the pick. He had a really good game. Will Johnson also had a pick. And, you know, for Washington, we'll go through it quick. Penix was 27 for 51, 255 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Dylan Johnson, bless his heart, he was banged up, 11 carries, 33 yards. They couldn't get anything.
I do.
Go ahead.
Oh, I do want to comment. I mean, there's no, like, that has to be an ego thing because there's no way the running back is worse than you on one leg. Like, that dude couldn't move well.
Yeah.
Like, he got hit, and, like, he can't. I know that dude was fighting through it, and that's nothing about him. It's like, put him in some spots. I know he's a senior, so I'm sure he's great in passing situations and, you know, picking up pass blocking, but, like, he needed to give some other guys carries because that's really what helped Michigan's secondary settle in.
Yeah.
There were still a few busts. I mean, when you get 51 pass plays called against you, you're going to bust. But I feel like them having zero run threat, having zero opportunity to gash them to force players to come extra into the box, really allowed Michigan to tighten some of those windows up. Linebackers could drop immediately, safeties could drop, and none of them were running or standing still.
Yeah, I don't know if Will Nixon was the backup, but he had a play where he was wide open and just dropped the ball. Easy. I think it was on fourth down, easy first down. Receiving, they did okay. Obviously, that kind of shut down. Roma Dunze had the most, five catches, 87 yards. Westover, the tight end, had a good game, 5 catches, 42 yards. And then besides that, only touchdown was to Jalen McMillan for 33 yards. He had a touchdown. Hampton had 6 solos and 10 total tackles. But besides that, not anything crazy for Washington. And I'm just going to go to my quick points, KB, that I talked about that, panned out for you guys. One, if Dylan Johnson doesn't play, I don't think they'll do well. He was banged up. I mean, both of his feet were banged up, and he had like a knee injury. That guy was probably pumped full of cortisol shots wherever the pain was and adrenaline. I get it. It's a national championship. You're running back. You want to go out there for your guys, and I can't believe no one behind him was okay. Obviously, they were probably more healthy than him. Respect to him. That sucks. I mean, he had a hell of a season. But my point there was correct. And then my big other point was the matchup between the secondary for Michigan and Washington. Guys were open, but I think the difference was Penix was hearing footsteps. He was rushed. Michigan's D-line, the concepts, the blitzes was the difference. I think the big thing before we went live, I just said, KB, he had Odunze. Odunze got the corner, turned around, he's open, and he just overthrew him. And that was kind of the throw that settled everything in, and then Michigan's defense took over. I thought Washington's defense played really good in the middle of the game there, in the second and the third, but the first and the fourth quarters are the difference, and the Michigan defense just shut down Washington. Penix, towards the end, you could tell he was hurting. He probably re-aggravated that rib injury that he had against Oregon, and Michigan's defense is the reason why they won in the running game. They're averaging 10 to 15 yards a carry. You probably have the stats, but yeah, this was a better matchup for Michigan. I think if Johnson is 100% healthy, I don't think he runs for a lot of yards, but he's a bigger difference maker and maybe gives Penix some time to throw. Good scheme by Michigan. It's a weird year with all the scandals and cheating, but the players came out the top, and we'll see what happens going forward. A lot of dominoes are going to fall in the coaching sphere in college here with what dropped today. So that's my thoughts. You can break it down too, and then we can have a conversation.
Yeah, I think the Washington O-line got out muscled. It wasn't a lot of speed rushes. There was a few times where the O-lineman got off. I know a big talking point on Twitter, which it always is in a big game because a lot of morons watch it. I think the refs did an okay job. I think there's a few bad miscalls,
couple holds
against Washington that they didn't call. I think the Odunze one that everyone talks about when he tried to one-hand it, the referee can't really see that because he's grabbing in the middle of his chest on hands that are close. So it's really hard, especially because that's normally a call from the backside referee, and the field referee sitting in the middle. So it's kind of a difficult call. It's the best place to kind of hold them there is just a slight tug, because anything behind, on the back hip, the referee running down the sideline can see.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, my cat is freaking out. But I think just overall is a great game plan for Michigan. They stunted and twisted a lot, and there was one play, the long completion down the side when it was still a 7-point game that got called back for a holding. That was clearly a hold. The dude got beat, didn't touch him, put his arm around his chest, and then the dude falls to the ground. And I had people saying in my mentions, well, that's not a holding. He didn't grab his jersey. So the guy that, the athlete that's better than any athlete you've ever met just fell down on his face. No, that's not what happened.
It was in real time. It's hard to see, but you can tell he kind of tugged him, then he fell down. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
I was questioning it right away. I had to text the group chat and say, "Is that a hold?" Then I saw the replay, and it definitely was. Even though, if you see it, if someone's not a huge football guy like you or KB, and they see it in real time, they might say, "What the hell? He just fell down." But I'm on your side. It was a hold.
Yeah, and I think there was still some uncalled ones on Michigan that did pretty well impact it. The completion that Michigan had on the last possession to Colston Loveland, There was definitely a hold by the right tackle. I think the reason why it wasn't called is because it didn't completely impede the defender on getting to him. He still hit JJ. That's not a good reasoning. I'm just saying from a referee standpoint, I can understand it. I still think it should have been thrown. But overall, Michigan played a great game. I mean, they had more rushing yards than Washington had total offensive yards. You should win that game by more than 21, I'd say. I think Michigan low-ended some things here. They had some weird possessions, some weird play calling. Let's stop calling stick routes with an out to the boundary, because that's what we ran, because it was pretty obvious. The first one that Michigan ran, and JJ threw it maybe slightly behind, but there was zero chance Cornelius Johnson, even on a perfectly thrown ball, could have caught it. And then Roman Wilson comes back the very next drive, motions in, and an outside linebacker gets out of his stance and turns and just sprints because he knows exactly what route is being ran. Is pretty poor play calling. Washington did a great job in their secondary. Their secondary was actually part of their strength for the season.
Yeah.
But I think JJ wasn't given a lot of opportunities. I mean, 18 throws, and they didn't have to. But play calling got stagnant in the second half. A lot of inside runs when really it was kind of inside runs that bounced, getting to the edge that worked more effectively for Michigan. But Donovan Edwards, I mean, this is a guy who struggled all year, who really couldn't stay on the field. He's been banged up the last few years, and he just goes in. And the first run, I think, was kind of more of an accident. And this was bad run fits, bad defense by Washington. But, I mean, they're not used to defending extra gaps. It's a inside zone
They
play.
better get used to it.
Yeah, inside zone play is pretty well blocked. Donovan picks the wrong gap initially, bounces off of it, changes direction. And the one thing I want to say is he outran every angle.
He did. He definitely. I thought one guy had an angle, and then I saw the replay. It wasn't even close to hitting
he didn't even touch him. He didn't even get close. Yeah. And then I think the second one was great vision because it's supposed to go to the left side. He gets there. He sees there's 3 Washington defenders on the left side. You can see him move his head. He's like, oh, shit. And then his head, his eyes peek, and then his head moves, and he's already moving to the right side after the huge gap opened up, and he was off to the races. Really spectacular job by them. I think one group, or I want to say this too, Penix played a fine game, but I think we all knew, and we were kind of talking about how Michigan's the better team. Penix had to play a game.
He had to play like he did against
where
Texas.
He was lights out. Yeah.
He played lights out against Texas.
And Michigan hit him early, hit him often, got him out of his rhythm. I mean, Kenneth Grant literally baptized someone. He made him his little boy.
He did.
On national television. And the interior guys, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, won like that all night. The edges won. That's the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, and they got completely ragdolled. That's basically the curse. You do not want to win that award because then your O-line goes in the postseason and gets killed for the last 3 straight years. But overall, it was a fine game plan. Michigan did just enough to win, and it reminded me of we kind of talked about this a lot. It reminded me of OSU. This game looked exactly like 2021 OSU, 2022 OSU, where it's a dogfight. There's some touchdowns, some points coming back. Michigan offense stalls a little bit, and then all of a sudden, when it's game time, when it's winning time in the fourth quarter, the defense gets a stop. Michigan busts out some run plays, scores. Michigan defense gets a stop, butts out some run plays and scores, and it's a blowout. That's exactly how it felt. I think there's, like I said, when you run that many routes, you're going to get open receivers, and Penix just didn't have it that night.
No.
And I do want to say Michigan is getting critiqued a lot, saying, well, this is the worst national championship. I've never seen a team, and I think this kind of speaks to college football, and I'm not saying they're the best team ever. I'm not saying they're they need to be hailed and praised. 15-0 is a hell of an accomplishment,
Yes.
but they did have a weaker strength of schedule. All the Big Ten teams outside of 2 really sucked, adding some people there. But I did want to kind of commentate. Never in my life watching sports has ever seen a team run for 300 yards on a team and that team be called not skilled. You go and take a Power 5 team. And no, it's not even it's everywhere. It's national pundits. This is the worst champion ever. And it's like, why? Because their defense is really good and they run the fuck out of the ball. Like, just because you're so used to seeing high-flying offenses year after year after year after year, you, like, forget that this is what college football was like until the late 2000s. Like, you didn't need a great quarterback, and JJ didn't have to play great tonight.
This is true.
He made a big run when he needed to. He had a great throw to Colston. He had a great throw to Roman on the first possession. Like, he made 4 plays all game.
I mean,
And that's all they asked out of him.
there's teams
And
here
then-
and there, like, what was it, year 20? What was the year Auburn won BCS? Like, I don't even remember. Not when Cam was I don't know if there was a year.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, are you talking about when they just had like unbelievable luck, the kick six, the ball bouncing in
Yeah,
the
it's like
SEC
they-
championship game
yeah.
off 2 players?
I don't think they won.
Yeah.
They might have lost to somebody, but they got to the championship game, and you could argue that they weren't that good. I mean, that's just people talking. I think the defense, I think, is enough here for Michigan. And people already talking, I think, in the group chat earlier today or yesterday, someone was talking about, like, 2021 LSU against this team and, like, what the spread would be.
2019.
Sorry. Like what
Yeah.
the spread would be, and promo guy said -2. He's pretty spot on with his line. So just people talking. There's good national championship teams that even lost, like that Miami team in 03. So like there's stacked teams all over
Yeah.
the board in championship games, and doing matchups and doing lines is fun. And but when people say this is the worst national champion, I don't know about that. As much as I hate Michigan, this defense showed you. The defense just shut everybody up, and then they run the ball down your throat, and in crunch time, that's what matters. That's why you play the game. Maybe Washington wins. If they play 100 times, Washington wins 40 times. But Michigan's defense, they have the law of averages probably. So kudos to Michigan. Good year. A lot of storylines. My respect goes to the players. Jim Harbaugh's a goofy dude. The cheating allegedly didn't. I think it happened. They suspended Harbaugh. Stallions got fired, and there might be more things to happen. So yes, things did happen. But the players stuck together. I think I sent you a couple TikToks. I think JJ is the most Giga Chad, but whatever works for him. He'll probably be a decent NFL quarterback. But the meditating and how do I defeat depression? I Googled it. It's just a little bit cheesy, but he's a young kid. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, that
It's an
story
interesting
is
year.
funny. I do want to rewind. I only say allegedly because I'm joking. I mean, the Big Ten levied sanctions, and there's findings that the NCAA shared with the Big Ten to kind of help deal with that. There could be a huge advantage here that they're getting, and then Michigan said, "Fuck you, we'll win all these games without that advantage." So like, that's why the NCAA president was kind of like, "Yeah, they won it fair and square." Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why McMurphy tweeted the other thing out like right after the game, but
Yeah.
he did.
I mean, you have to generate clicks. It makes sense. But just to rewind, with the JJ thing, I think it is like, oh, I just Googled it. I mean, he could have Googled it for 10 hours, right? And like researched and read things.
Yeah.
But the thing is he was in Illinois. They didn't let you play your senior season. He moves down to Florida by himself. Now he's in Florida during COVID playing football. All right, football ends. What? I'm just sitting in Florida by myself waiting.
Did he graduate
I can
early?
see how. Yeah,
Okay.
I think, but 2020 was such a weird year, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you could. Michigan didn't have a bowl game, so he could have just sat. I'm just saying, like the fact people are like, oh, he had depression, and he just had to Google it. Like, that's a bit of a reduction, right?
And then
I would
the
just
whole
say
like alpha brainwaves. I don't know, that's
yeah,
a
I mean
thing.
he's like a Jim Harbaugh guy. He's a little weird. I mean, his meditating underneath the post he
With
did
all
that
the
every
guys
game
taking
before
pictures, that was a little
well,
bit much.
he did that beforehand. It's not.
I know he
his
does it
fault.
every
He did
game,
that-
but like the camera guys
Yeah.
being 5 yards away is like
Yeah.
so much for
The camera
meditating
guys-
when I can feel a guy right in front of me.
Yeah, I think media loves those stories, and like they should just leave him the fuck alone. Like you should just let him do his routine.
That one,
Like if a
and
guy
then,
went
like,
out there,
they went to high school together. Like, oh, I didn't know that, and other things
Yeah.
about like parents and there's always
Yeah.
certain stories that
Something-
the media loves to talk about more than once per game.
yeah, they gleam onto. But I just want to say, like, dude, I'm so happy. I called my brother afterwards. I was on the phone with my cousin for a while. I texted my mom because she was already asleep. But I was bursting with joy. I had never felt anything like that. I mean, I went through App State. I was literally like, oh my God, they're playing App State today. I was like, we went down to my aunt and uncle's house. And I remember listening on the radio, and I'm like, oh my God, like what a weird game. And it just kept getting weirder. And I remember hearing what happened on the radio. I mean, we went
Jim
through
Brandstad
Toledo.
was terrible, by the way. I don't think
They almost lost to Connecticut. The
Almost lost to
failure
Army.
in the Almost lost to Army in 2019. There's so many weird things and screwed up things that Michigan went through. 2020 was a hell of a season. I watched MSU with a dude
State's
who
had
can
highs and
barely
lows.
play at the MAC level, chuck it up 40 times to an LV receiver, and Michigan refusing to change anything, and Don Brown finally getting his bitch ass out of there, and Michigan finally developing some NFL defensive tackles that don't weigh 280 pounds. Thank the Lord, man. Michigan fans have been through a lot. Been through some really tough times.
Leaders in the best.
I know everyone. I know everyone hates Michigan fans. I know everyone hates the community around them. And Michigan
you're better than
fans,
most, KB.
Michigan fans are dickheads. I think some
America's
of them are
team?
just absolute morons.
Give me a break.
They were America's team.
No
They were
fucking way.
The top 3 most watched teams all had
It's
Michigan.
a big brand,
and
you guys had all the headlines on you.
Dave,
Of
do you
course
think it's a
there's
coincidence? We're America's team, Dave. Dave, I'm trolling,
I know
obviously.
you are.
No, we're one of the most hated teams in the country probably right now. People wanted Bama to win. That's how mad people were.
Yeah.
But
Kirby Smart was a
just-
bitch ass. That's what Brendan Walker had to say too. I think
Yeah.
Georgia. I think Georgia probably beats Michigan this year, but they played a shitty game.
Disagree.
Oh, I think it would have been. It could have been the best matchup of the year.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it
the
would have
Bama
been
game was
interesting.
good game. That was a good game too. Hypothetically speaking, I think that would have been a great game. But just Brandon Walker saying Kirby was a bitch ass when they played Bama and they didn't show up. So
Well, the thing is too is I feel like we're overvaluing one game against Florida State. Like recency bias is the same thing that happened with Bama. Oh my God, Bama's gonna hang $1 billion on Michigan. There's not even gonna be close, and everyone's like, why is Michigan favored? Why is Michigan? How could they be favored? And it's like, because you have to watch a goddamn season, you Nimrod. You tune in for one game a year,
yeah.
and then you make a decision on how the rest of the season looked. So that's not any of that. I don't want to be mad or anything. I'm just gonna enjoy this. A lot of people are probably leaving. Jim might leave. Quorum's done. I've been hearing a number
JJ
thrown around
might be
44 seniors. That's walk-on seniors. That's every single senior. In the 2D, they are losing 22 people are eligible to leave, which is a ton. I'm not arguing that. But that's a lot different than 44 seniors if you hear that. Because that's all available players on the 105-man roster. But with that being said, Dave, anything else to say?
I had a thought and I just lost it. Oh, fuck.
Damn
was a
it,
good one, too.
Dave. Unbelievable.
It was a good one,
No,
too.
but I'm so happy. And Dave, one day I'm going to be sitting here and maybe we won't have a podcast. Maybe I'll have a kid too and be like, all right, this is too much. But we'll be talking about MSU football and we'll be like, dude, they
We've
won
had
a
ups
championship.
and downs. If we have a championship in my lifetime, that'd be nuts. We haven't had an actual one since the 60s, I think. Obviously, we had the Rose Bowl, which I think before the playoff is still pretty up there. Probably could have been the championship that year, except for some refs against Notre Dame calling PIs left and right. The original no-fly zone was that year. Our defense was incredible. But very built like Michigan this year, I would say. I think those teams are very comparable. Really good defense flying around. Offense has a couple guys that are really good, and then they, at the end of the game, they pound it to you. I remember that year. Every time at the end of the game, Jeremy Langford would bust off a 20-yard run, and it would be the icing on the cake. We beat every team in the Big Ten by 10. So we've had ups and downs.
Was that the Kirk Cousins year?
That was Connor Cook.
Connor Cook. Okay. I couldn't remember.
We had really good like Trey Waynes and stuff like that.
Yeah, you guys DBs
We
were
stacked. We got that. We had the CFP where we got smoked. It is what it is. The Cotton Bowl, the year with Kenneth Walker. We've had highs. We haven't had this high of a highs. So, if we get there, I think what Jonathan Smith is doing so far is great. Obviously, we haven't played a game with him, but if we ever have that conversation, KB, I'm looking forward to it. You've handled the win with grace. I know that it makes me sick to see Michigan win. But I respect you as a fan. You're better than most. I was at the gym working out and then working this last weekend, and just all the Michigan people are being really proud. I didn't go to state, but I still call a lot of Michigan fans Walmart Wolverines, and some guys went there, some didn't. I get it. Fandom's fandom. Respect to Michigan's players. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this offseason. I think Jim's gone. I think JJ's gone, and they have a hard schedule, so we'll probably be here talking about it in 300-something days. But kudos to UKB. Our first year, we're doing this, and bam, you get a natty. You have a coach jacking off, and you got a coach cheating. So what a year for storylines.
You're my good luck charm, Dave. Appreciate you.
But we can segue Unless you got any other thoughts, KB. I know there's a lot of news for State in the portal, and a big bombshell this today in the coaching
Yeah,
world.
I'm gonna go big bombshell first, if you don't mind.
Take it away.
I mean, the reign's over. Michigan ended it. I mean, Michigan ended Nick Saban. I just want to make sure that's clear to everyone. Michigan ended Nick Saban's career. It was too tough a loss. Up 7 with 4 minutes left. It just took his soul out of the game. All that to say, Nick Saban, and that's obviously a joke. I mean, I think the writing's been on the wall for a little while here, talking about his intensity in practice and stuff like that. But he is the best coach ever.
Absolutely.
Now, whether
Former
he
Spartan dog, must say.
he's had his own myriad of cheating scandals, which
I think every coach in college probably has something
yeah,
on their
every coach
ledger.
does. And so I think the point is though no one's going to remember that about him. I think we're all going to remember a coach that really knew how to coach defense, came in, and established just an unknown physicality to the game. I don't think I've ever seen a university before since Alabama. Georgia was really close to sustaining it, but they've fallen off. I mean, you just couldn't beat Alabama with their physicality. Now, you could outspeed them sometimes.
In the 2000s was pretty nuts, too, I will say.
Yeah, but that was Urban.
Juggernaut. Yeah, Urban.
Yeah, that was Urban. And, I mean, Alabama was so physical, they didn't need a quarterback run game. Like, you look at that Florida team, they needed a quarterback that could run to, offset and add another playmaker to the box. Even at Ohio State, they did that. But he was so good at that and establishing so much strength and conditioning. And then the DB play there and wide receiver play there has been unbelievable.
DBs? Pretty sure, right?
Yeah, he was a DB growing up.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Saban. Great year, great, coach, probably the GOAT. I think there's an NFL Films on him or some NFL thing. I think in his interview he said the process for when he kind of figured it all out and clicked was his last year at State. So it could have been. You never know. I'm pretty sure he wanted to stay at State. He's talked a lot about how he wanted. He's always has it in the back of his mind, but I don't think he had a lot of support from the AD, which is a loss. But Saban took that process and had a killer tenure at LSU, and then he went to the Dolphins for a year or two, and then back to college at Bama, where he just was the cream of the crop every year.
Yeah.
Very intense. Would get on guys, but I think he was, relatively speaking, a good coach, a good guy. There's an interview out there in a presser about Musa Muhammad, former Michigan State receiver, and they're going to kick him off the team for doing dumb shit. And he said, he kept him on the team. He helped him, and he was on the Panthers for fucking 15 years, probably Hall of Fame receiver, and he gave the guy another chance when nobody else would. He's that kind of coach, that kind of guy. So if you ever want to see a really good interview or a coach talking about why they coach pretty much, I would say look up that interview about Musa Muhammad. So not much more to say. He was a great coach. This is a huge domino, KB, in the coaching world, and that's huge. I don't know who's going to go there. I know names being thrown out are Dabo, Lanning. Somebody said James Franklin,
Sark.
which I don't think is a fit whatsoever for them. But any other thoughts, KB? Sorry, I kind of interrupted you.
No, that's definitely the thing I was going to go to next is, I mean, this is just such a job like this never opens. Where,
a lot of guys are going to leave, so it might not be an easy job.
I mean, yeah, you have a massive backfall of NIL. They're paying people, they're getting all the best recruits, right? So the best teams are setting up huge NILs to get the best recruits. Yeah. And I know a lot of it is the process, and you're going to be an NFL draft pick. I know that part. But the one thing I do kind of want to say about all this is some really, really good football team is going to lose their really, really good football coach, and a lot of really, really good players are going to leave. Like, imagine if Kiffin goes. Yeah. What if Kiffin goes back, takes all of the players he just got on the portal in there, and with all their players, and you have that quarterback in that system, a quarterback that can actually throw the ball, unlike Milroe, even though Milroe sliced up the SEC and couldn't do anything. What?
Could Dart transfer again?
Yeah.
Holy fuck!
He's a graduate.
Nuts if that happens.
He's a graduate, right? Or Sark. Maybe. You bring Ewers or Manning there. Manning becomes the prince of football over there.
Oh, that'd be nuts, dude. This is gonna be This is gonna be
Like,
this is a huge domino, dude. I don't know what's gonna happen. Dabo, I think for me, my first thought's Dabo just because that's kind of where he learned a lot. Then he went to Clemson and built them up. But yeah, like that's true. A big team's gonna lose a big coach, and they're gonna have to have a massive buyout. So a
yeah.
lot of money's gonna be thrown around. And yeah, the portal now for Bama is open for 30 days. And then if the other team hires a coach, then they're open for 30 days. So yeah, there could be absolute chaos to whomever they hire.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd push back, and we'll move on to some transfer stuff, to kind of wrap this up after, a quick little episode here. But the thing with Dabo is I don't think he has the edge to be willing to. I mean, he's a name, image, and likeness like in God. Like that's just not the intensity that Alabama requires. Like if you don't win 11 games and be in the college football playoff in year one because you aren't willing to get every single player in the portal and you aren't willing to pay recruits and you aren't willing to saddle up, I mean, I don't think you have a chance to like land the Bama job. Like, I'm not saying Bama's always paid players, but they've always recruited much better than everyone else, and that was one of their biggest advantages. And that was something that Nick was super, super good at. And I don't think Dabo has been able to recruit at that level at Clemson, even though he's had extreme success at Clemson, which gives me a cause for concern because you're kind of in that South Carolina portal down there where you're the best team probably along the coast. I mean,
Yeah.
South Carolina isn't fucking with you. I mean, Florida State's pretty good, but over your sustained success, they weren't, and they haven't turned that into huge portal wins in the last handful of years.
True.
And so that would be the reason why I wouldn't go with him.
What did he say
But
about
it's
NIL again? He's a goofy dude. Something about
the name, image, and likeness of God. That's how he wants to build his team.
yeah.
Him and Harbaugh are like cousins in coaching because they're just like cringy to the point where you kind of have to respect it because you think that's what makes them good. Like, because for coaching, you have to be like a hard ass, a genius, or a weirdo. And those two, I feel like, fall into the weirdo category.
They do.
Where like players like them because it's just like a goofy fucking white guy that like you don't know what to do with.
I know I've heard Quorum say in interviews like, yeah, you can't even tell if he's joking or being serious. And he's like, I don't really talk to him a lot, but that's how. But they do love him. I would say they both are weird. Then you have like the guys like Urban that are just fucking nuts. I would say I don't know why, but Vrabel's in my head because he's got let go. Belichick might be gone. Pete Carroll, USC legend, he's gonna move to a different role in the Seahawks. So a lot of big names in the coaching sphere in college, in NFL more recently because of the season, but and then Saban. So coaching moves happening. Crazy. This is a domino, and whoever they hire in the next week or two will be another domino of players moving, and whoever that's going to be probably another big time name school with the opening. So it's just a massive domino. And then if Jim leaves, I've heard some rumblings that a guy down south wants that job too. So a lot of things could happen here in a weird time of the year. It's late. It's January. I mean, for football, it's a weird time. But we'll see here in the next 2 weeks, KB. If Jim's gone and Saban gone, a lot of things could happen.
Yeah, and that's it hurts college football. I mean, you can say what you want about Jim, but Saban's been a pillar of the college football for 20 years outside of his few in Miami or with the Dolphins, and Jim's been a pinnacle. I mean, he completely turned around Stanford. He completely turned around Michigan. So, I mean, that's nothing to scoff at as his career has kind of wound up and he finally got to the pinnacle. So, I mean, losing those two guys, it's never easy. And I think overall it's going to be interesting to see where, like you said, not only these dominoes fall, but like what are the other changes? Because it's not just guys that you're going to replace. Like Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, he retired.
Yep.
If Michigan goes elsewhere to look, does Sharon Moore go elsewhere? Does Minter go to the NFL? Like all of these things. Does Jay Harbaugh leave the staff? Does Mike Hart leave the staff? I mean, all these things could completely implode shit. I mean,
you got a natty. But you got the natty.
But we got a natty.
That's
so
what matters.
We're chilling. It does. I think we can wind this down a little bit. Some transfer talk. Dave, what's the MSU transfer news? I've seen some
looking
headlines.
really good,
I haven't
man.
read any of them.
I think it's looking really good. We got a lot of commits the last week or so. I'll just say some names and their position and some quick thoughts. Tanner Miller, he's an interior O-lineman from Oregon State. I mean, their O-line coach was very good at developing guys. He's a solid inside lineman. Tony Grimm's former five-star, North Carolina to A&M to State, really good corner. Nothing crazy. He's not like I think he was maybe highly rated as a five-star, but he's better than all of our previous corners have been. So I think that's a good pickup. That will be good for our secondary.
Not very difficult.
True, KB, thank you. Daquan Deuce, I think that Deuce or Duze, I don't know if I say it right. He's a D lineman from Georgia Tech. Haven't heard much from him. I think he'll be good. He committed. Oh, it says 12/29, but the news just dropped recently. I'm pretty sure. What's another new one? We got a backup quarterback for depth, Tommy Schuster. He's actually a Michigan native from the east side. He played at North Dakota for like 3 or 4 years as a starter. He's coming back home. You know, him and Childs would compete, but I think Childs has a higher ceiling, and that's good for us. If a child gets hurt, you have a guy with a lot of experience. I know it's FCS level, but North Dakota's a decent program, so that's good depth for the quarterback position. And I thought we got somebody else today. We got like another linebacker from Old Dominion.
Gotcha.
Wayne Matthews.
Yeah.
He had like 135 tackles, and a lot of. Here we go. I got it right here. Broke under the seam at Old Dominion in 23, 135 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles during his redshirt sophomore year. So we have 2 more years of eligibility. He was a big pickup today or yesterday. So a lot of good pickups, and a lot of guys are staying. I don't know if any new ones broke. And then I was looking at the list of guys that have left, and a lot of guys have kind of, we have some guys that went to, higher caliber teams. I think losing a long snapper to USC kind of sucks, but besides that, I think that the portal's been in our favor. So I'm excited to see, how they do this offseason and see what happens in spring. Another big one, KB, I know you saw it, was Judkins is going to OSU. That's a big one. That's a big one.
That one was honestly surprising. I did see Denzel Burke is running it back, the cornerback for them too. So he said that he's coming back to OSU. I wonder what that means for Travion, because you have to announce, I think, by the 14th if you're going to be in the NFL draft. So that is going to be interesting, because if Henderson's returning and Judkins, that's a very terrifying back.
Them.
Yeah. But overall, not much portal news. Michigan did lose Darius Clemens, wide receiver, and I talked about this at the beginning of the season. If Michigan, look, I'm not mad about anything. They won the national championship. I mean, they could lose. They could go 0-12 next year, and who cares? They won a national championship. But their lack of production, lack of usage, lack of skillful route trees that they've produced does hurt the recruiting. Andrell Anthony was a great recruit. He went down there and was leading Oklahoma in receiving until he got injured against Texas. Like, there's great wide receivers on this roster. And the problem is that Michigan runs such basic concepts so often that they aren't getting used. And Darius Clemens left. He was a 6'3" top 150 recruit, and you lose him. And that doesn't help. I know that probably means guys are ahead of him in the depth chart, but it's just like to see some changes there. Maybe we will, depending on what happens with coaching. But that was the big one. I think overall, the transfer portal it reopens again after.
I didn't know about.
Huh?
I just saw another one I didn't know about. Jaden Maeva, who I thought committed to Georgia, flipped to USC. Former UNLV quarterback, which I find really weird.
I think he's just going for the vibes. He's just I'm here for depth.
I'm going to Georgia. Fuck it, I'll go to USC. I mean,
yeah.
2 big teams. He was decent at UNLV with that go-go, but I don't think he's going to start anywhere.
No, yeah. I mean, a lot of these, I think it's kind of like a North Dakota transfer. I just think you're looking for someone, hey, give me a scholarship. Hey, you want to play here? We'll give you $80,000. Oh, I can make $80,000 my senior year and live in Southern Cal?
Why not?
Okay, don't mind that. Right? I can go party it up as the backup quarterback, take reps, and do all that stuff. I think the one thing that I'm happy about for you, Dave, as we're wrapping this up, is it seems like they're not just adding starters in the portal. They're adding some depth pieces, which I think with the way that Tucker had constructed this roster, you guys didn't have depth, and it was year 4?
3 or 4, yeah.
3, yeah. And I think that was the biggest knock on Tucker, is that he had built this roster, and if anyone got injured, I mean, I know you guys went through practice last year, and you guys couldn't go through like spring practice drills because you had 5 healthy offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Like that was something that always, when you build through the portal, can be a concern. And I think the one thing I've seen is that he's not just adding, hey, starter. It's like, hey, if you want to come in and fight, we'll give you a spot, but you're probably not. But if you want to come and play for us, if you want to be part of this, we need the depth. You will get snaps probably. It's just we're not handing you a role. And I think that's, really, really productive and really good. So
And it's not glitzy, it's not glammy. He's probably telling the guys straight up how it's going to be. Tucker was very glitz and glam with the cars and the chains, and I like the change to how Smith's doing it. There was a picture of him with all the new recruits coming in. It was just like he's a football guy. He lives and breathes it. I think he's doing a great job with the portal, like you said, KB, getting the depth we need. I think we might get there's other Oregon State guys that are out there. I don't know if we're trying to get them, but I think the way he's using the portal and the roster I have on hand is very good. Obviously, we haven't played a game yet, so I could be talking on my ass. There is other news. Louisiana Lafayette was a game scheduled for 24. They dropped and are playing Wake Forest now, so we have to find a game to be played. I'm assuming the athletic department.
Like next year?
Yeah.
Holy Lord.
Yeah, pretty sure. So they, I don't know what happened, but I think Louisiana Lafayette switched to play Wake Forest. From what I saw, that's all I know. So State's probably got to find a lower tier team or a FCS team to play, I would assume, that has an opening on their schedule. I could try to find.
Damn, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I'm still in shock. I have some coworkers who are from Michigan, and I have another coworkers from Ohio State. So we were kind of talking today, and one of the fun facts. I'll just throw this out there while Dave's looking this up. The third largest watchers of the college football playoff. Number one was Detroit. Their area. Number two was Seattle. Number three was Columbus. So it's one of the best rivalries in the country. All those Columbus people watching Michigan win the Natty. Thank you all for tuning in. But this is such a cool group. Oh, another transfer. Jake Thaw, the kid who muffed the punt, but then got it. He transferred from the program today. I don't know if it was the negativity from the fans. It seemed like he was alluding to that.
He didn't play a lot, did he?
No. He was I think he's only a sophomore. I think he was a walk-on too.
Okay.
I don't think he was a scholarship player, but some of the fans were giving him a hard time. I mean, he messed up, but you
guys won the game, so it don't matter.
Yeah, because of him. Like, so I mean, overall, I think that's the bad part about fandom,
so many
is when it
people out
becomes
there,
toxic.
like, they're behind Twitter and just saying dumb shit. Like, shut your fucking mouth. These are still people. I mean, yeah, I'm crazy. I love college football. It's kids that are 18 to 27 now, but obviously that's gonna go away because COVID's getting stretched out here. But people are crazy behind their phone, and it's just like, at the end of the day, I'm upset, I'm pissed off. But then you're like, you know what? That kid's gotta, he just played that game. He's probably more upset than I am, but he's got to go play another game next week. So have some, thoughts in your head that make sense. Obviously, some people don't have that.
Yeah,
I do have info on this, KB.
You got it.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Louisiana backed out of this game against MSU, originally scheduled to be played September 14th in East Lansing, now leaving the Spartans with an open day of Week 3. Two MSU sources had a replacement opponent is being finalized and will be announced once the contract is signed. Typically, contracts are agreed upon multiple years in advance. For example, this game was agreed upon in 2021, so which adds complexity to the change, which is only 9 months away. So I don't know why they dropped, but it's they're playing Wake Forest instead of us. I
wonder if Wake Forest
September 28 game at Wake Forest on Wednesday morning.
I wonder if they offered a larger bag, because those are usually pay games to come in and get your butt kicked for 1 year.
Yeah, maybe, but Wake doesn't have a lot of money. They're smallest FBS program, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But with that being said, I just want to thank everyone for listening through the course of the year. I mean, these weeks flew by so much faster than I could have ever anticipated. We don't get a ton of football. I mean, 15 weeks, 15 games. And it was a great 15 games. I mean, one of the best years of football in my life.
Fuck off.
Honestly, and I was just happy to share it with all you guys. And at the detriment to Dave, who had to live through Michigan winning their first national championship since '97, shared since like '48 before that. But '97, we all know who would have won against Michigan, Nebraska. So I mean,
is that Tommy Frazier or no? Or is that Scott Frost?
They had to have a last minute overtime comeback win against Missouri, and Michigan beat that team by 2 touchdowns, and that was their 2 common opponents, and Michigan beat them both by more. So, I mean, I wasn't alive. I was still floating. So, but appreciate everyone. Really thank you guys a lot for tuning in all year, and we're gonna have off-season coverage. We might take a week off or something here. Maybe talk about all the players that enter the draft after that for Michigan and Michigan State, what we see of them, and then kind of just go from there. I mean, spring ball's around the corner where we'll find out more, find out starters. I mean, I'm sure Harbaugh will be gone. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. And I don't know when we'll shift the podcast, but appreciate you guys so much. And for one last time, the men at the top of the mountain, go blue.
Good for you, KB. I got to say to everybody out there listening, I know it's only a handful of you guys, but go Lions as well. Big game this weekend. I'll be watching. I have Monday off, and hopefully we can get Stafford out of here. It'll be the most Lions thing to lose to Stafford in a playoff game, but we'll have to watch it and have some fun there. Respect to KB being a respectful Michigan fan most of the time, unless he's trolling, so appreciate that. Crazy year, ups and downs for both of us. Cheating scandal, masturbation scandal. Coach getting fired, probably going to be in the court system for a while, so keep your eye on that one. I hope Mel Tucker the man's doing okay, but he's a fucking idiot, but I hope the best for him as a man. I just got to say that just because he's still a person. He's made a ginormous mistake. And then
honestly, pray for his wife. That has to be one of the most embarrassing things to ever have to figure out.
And his kids, so thoughts to them. I hate doing that. It's cliche as fuck, but just a crazy year of ups and downs. State getting clobbered by every big team they played, and then watching a team that I truly hate in my bones. I can't explain it. Respect to Michigan. The players did their job. So go green. Thanks so much, guys. We'll be around. We might take a week off, but keep your eye out on Twitter. I'll be tweeting, and we'll record in a week or two here. Thanks so much. Have a good night/day.
Yeah.